Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for joining. My name is Skylar O'Neill. I am the manager of our education and community engagement programs here at the Grammy Museum. We are excited to continue our virtual workshops in partnership with Live Out Live. And I'm going to turn it over to the CEO and founder of Live Out Live, Candace Newman, to introduce today's program. Last time we got a chance to work with Live Out Live was during our Grammy Week programming, and we are excited to be back online. And Candace, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Skylar. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Candace Newman. I am the CEO and founder of Live Out Live. I'm super excited to be here today with you guys to bring back some more live music industry programming in partnership with the Grammy Museum. And we have a really special guest today who's going to be speaking on Festival 101. She's going to be sharing some of the basics on what it looks like to produce a festival and what goes behind the work to put together and ideate and execute a festival. So I am excited to introduce our speaker, Haasini, a junior talent buyer from Live Nation. I'm going to hand it over to Haasini so that she can go ahead and begin her presentation. Thank you so much for being here. And we're excited to have you and to hear from you. I believe we are recording this session. So I wanted to put that on everyone's radar in case you don't want to be on camera. Feel free to go off camera. And then Haasini is going to guide the session today, and I believe there's going to be a Q&A at the end, so prepare to dive in. All right, I'll hand it over to you, Haasini. Thank you.
Thank you, Candace. Hi, everyone. Sorry, there was like a little bit of sound. My name is Haasini. Thank you, Live Out Live and Grammy Museum for having me. I definitely feel very special to have been chosen for Festival 101, considering it is a very large industry and there's a lot of power players in it. So I'm definitely very honored. Thank you. But yeah, my name is Haasini. I work at Live Nation. I'm a junior talent buyer. So that means, I'm not, it's basically me and my boss, booking festivals. So my boss is the one like booking like the bigger, you know, festival headliners that, tend to be like, in the $1 million range and whatnot. But I'm mainly booking kind of like the more smaller mid-tier kind of like the artists that you're going to see on like the like middle of the lines on a festival lineup. But I also get to help curate lineups where it makes sense, where I might have like a better understanding of the genre, and also just kind of get the opportunity to put on new artists that maybe my boss might not know of. So yeah, I work on festivals like Lovers and Friends, which we have Missy Elliott and Christina Aguilera, Mariah Carey, and a bunch of amazing artists on there. And that's kind of like a lot of 2000s R&B and hip hop, which is, really having a comeback these days as well. If you, listen to a lot of the music that that's out right now, like they're using a lot of samples from 2000 songs, like for example Nicki Minaj sorry for example Nicki Minaj and Red Ruby Rose and the Lumity sample. So it's really cool because the festivals I work on are still very current as far as influencing pop culture and music goes. I also work on festivals like When We Were Young, which has mainly pop punk and emo music. In 2022, our headliners were Paramore and My Chemical Romance. And this year, this October, we are excited to be hosting Green Day and Blink 182 as the headliners. And I also work on festivals like Sick New World, which, has System of a Down headlining. And that is more of like our new metal experimental festival. And then some other festivals that I've had a larger influence on is the Smokers Club Festival, which happened in 2022. But, we haven't brought it back, not quite yet. But that was another festival that I definitely really worked on as well. But a little bit about me. Um, I'm from Boulder, Colorado. I only ever grew up and lived in Boulder, Colorado before moving to LA. Something that's really, exciting about Colorado is that there is a big live music presence there. We have venues like Red Rocks, which is this beautiful outdoor amphitheater and it's basically just in these like pink mountains or rocks, and there's a whole amphitheater carved out of these beautiful rocks, and it's very historic. It's some of artist's favorite place to play, and it's definitely a huge like accomplishment in a artist's career to play there. So my first concert was I was 13 years old, and it was Rise Against at Red Rocks. It was crazy, and I'm really grateful because I grew up being able to go to concerts there all the time. And if you know anything about like Colorado culture, the hippie movement was really big there. So there were like artists like Fish and the Grateful Dead and String Cheese Incident and like all those very prominent like jam bands were really, really big during like the hippie movement and years moving forward. So because of that, although Colorado is kind of like in the middle of the country, and when you think of like music hubs, you think of like, New York, LA, Austin, perhaps. Colorado definitely influenced my, passion for working in live music, just being surrounded by live music all the time. We might not have like a big national festival per se, but there were festivals all over the mountains, just with like jam bands and electronic music. So I was really lucky to have been exposed to that at a young age. And the one thing though, is that I am, an Indian immigrant. I'm a proud brown woman in America. And I,
That's why I'm out. No, I'm out. Yeah.
Being from like a Indian immigrant background, like my family didn't necessarily understand why I wanted to go to concerts or go to shows. And my mom didn't she thought I wanted to be like a groupie for a while, like, which was not the case, but she just didn't understand what I was trying to do, so she wouldn't like pay for my concert tickets. And so being a kid and like all my friends like going to shows all the time, I was like, I want to go to shows, like this is what I want to do. So I would literally, I started off just street teaming, which is if you're a young person, like definitely, listen to this piece of advice for sure, is like, if you're maybe your family doesn't want to pay for concert tickets or something like that, I basically worked at each venue around town at the age of 16, where I would go around putting up flyers, putting up posters around town, going into businesses, just like tossing a bunch of flyers, going to shows, and then afterwards like being one of those annoying people that's like handing out flyers for shows, stuff like that is like really how I got my start. And I think I'm pretty successful for my age, but it was genuinely just because I wanted to go to shows, and the only way I could was street teaming, and I was doing that at 16. And from there, the people that I was working for kind of saw how dedicated and on top of it I was, even at a young age. And like from there, out of high school, I got my first internship. And I stayed in Boulder because I like didn't come from like a very like wealthy background. I was very humble, growing up. So I went to school where I could afford to go to school. I didn't get a chance to go to like USC or NYU for music, but again, I was lucky because Colorado is, a big live music, hub or whatever. So right, my freshman year, I was doing like my programming board, and I immediately joined my programming board being like, hey, listen, like I'm gonna be killing it in music. You guys want me here. And from there, 2 years into college, I was like booking this small little like venue on campus, like booking like local bands and stuff. And I was the intern for a for our local theaters at that point, which was the Fox and Boulder Theater. And they didn't really take any booking interns. It was always marketing, but I barreled in and I was like, listen, like these are the types of shows that you want to be booking, that college kids want to go to, like yada, yada. They brought me in as their intern. And from there, like I was only 3 months into my internship before my younger boss, who was the assistant talent buyer at the time. So she was just booking like the support bands and, helping out with the booking process, was like, hey, do you want to apply for my job? They're looking for someone young. And I was like, listen, I'm a full-time student. I don't know how I'd be able to do that. And they were like, no, we'll make it part-time. And they want someone fresh and young. And so I ended up applying, and I like somehow got this like crazy job at the age of 20. So that was kind of, a little, it's not the most classic path. Usually you kind of get that job like post grad or whatever, but I just was at the right place at the right time, I guess. And so my college career was a little interesting because I was a college student while also being, a booking assistant at the same time. So I was like plugged in with all the like, local musicians. I would like, if we had an EDM show that wasn't like doing very well, I would literally just hit up like a frat DJ at every single frat and have them like sell 100 tickets each. And then, we would make money on the show. And so college was a really fun and like special time. I got to, really get exposed to the industry at, kind of a bit of a younger age, maybe not the LA or New York lifestyle, but definitely like live music. And that passion just never really died or went away. Like I knew at 16 that I was meant to produce, concerts and festivals. And it just, in college, it really only got stronger. But even like with working like festivals and stuff, like, again, I never could pay to go to festivals. It was always like someone that I worked with and that saw how like passionate I was. And they were like, you know what, I want you to just shadow me at Okeechobee festivals, and like we'll cover your, like your artist pass to like shadow me, and like whatever, and we'll give you a tent to like stay in with 3 other people, but you have to, fly yourself out and get yourself out here. And I would like take those opportunities. And, I built my network at a younger age, and like I just really worked hard so that I could get set up for success like midway through college and just beyond. And then after college, I graduated, got a job with my current boss. We were over at Golden Voice for a little bit. Then the pandemic hit, and then we went over to Live Nation. And now I'm, helping book festivals and a junior talent buyer with my boss over here. And I'm having like the best time ever. I love my coworkers. I love what I get to do. It's super creative. And one of the things I'm really, really passionate about, which is one of the reasons I decided to, take, talk on this talk or whatever, is I'm really am very passionate about getting more Black and Brown folks, as well as just women in general, into the industry. I do definitely think it needs more of our presence in this industry. And one of the things I do on the side, which I'll tie in kind of at the end, is I also work on this program called Live Nation Next Gen. So it's basically like a, multi-week apprenticeship where we have, you have to apply. There's an application process, and the next cohort is next year. But it's basically like we pick 17 to 21-year-olds kids, mainly from like the South Central community or just Black and Brown folks in general. And if accepted, you basically come into this to the Sola I Can Foundation, and there's this room, the Live Nation room, which is a state-of-the-art room where we kind of teach our classes out of. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 6 to 8 p.m., the kids kind of come in and learn everything that it takes to kind of put on a music festival. So every week they'll learn booking, marketing, graphic design, kind of like concept creation, how to market a show. And I'm, kind of giving like a very brief overview of how that kind of works today. But if you are interested in like diving deeper and you hit the age requirements and like the requirements needed to take the class, I would highly consider, taking the class, because it's basically super in-depth dive. You learn all the tools that it would take to produce your own festival, produce your own concert. And the goal is to help, and then once you learn all that, we actually produce our very own, micro festival as well at the Beehive. So it's, a smaller, like basically lawn show, but we call it a micro festival. And you take everything you've learned and apply it and produce your own very own music festival under the tutelage of me and my co-coach Jack. But yeah, it's again, this is something I'm very passionate about, and I do hope that after this, you guys tap me on LinkedIn, and definitely, like, please feel free to stay in touch. I want to see more of us in this industry, and it's something I really care about. But okay, hopefully I'm doing well. I think I'm doing good on time. So yeah, I guess now we can kind of go into like concept creation. And this can go for festivals and concerts, in my opinion. I think with concerts, you can also have like a lot of fun and like, make it very branded if you want it to be. It doesn't just have to be just like, oh, here's a headliner. Like if you book enough acts, you can kind of create like almost like a festival like experience in a way if you book enough artists or whatever. But I think the first, very basic rule of concept creation is like, where are you located? I think you have to kind of know, like, if I'm going to throw a festival or a concert, like where would I do it and who's going to come? And that's going to completely dictate what the branding of your festival is going to look like, the kind of social media strategy you're going to have. And that's the root of it, is making sure you kind of have that understanding. So some examples I have are, before I go into my own festivals, is like, first example is for me, it was like Colorado, that demographic tends to be, more like middle class, like mainly like, white demographic. And the music that tends to be most popular there is like, again, like jam bands and EDM and yada yada. So it might not be the best place to create a hip hop festival. Maybe Atlanta or LA would work, but Colorado definitely can't just go in being like, I'm going to do, a huge hip hop festival in Colorado, because that might not necessarily sell and might not be the best concept for a market like that. So, something that's going to sell there and actually do well there, and a concept that's going to be successful, is maybe a jam band festival or a EDM festival, which there's a plethora of, and those all sell and do very, very, very well. Another example is, Innings Festival, which is, happening in Arizona. And I believe Arizona is like a big hub for like baseball and stuff. So if you go look at their social media, they have like a lot of like, just imagery of like baseball stuff. And they have a lot of cactuses, and they really know like what their target demo is just like, regular, like, folks who are just trying to catch a baseball game, who are out in the desert, who maybe not want to go see like the craziest show ever, but they'd be down to like see Green Day and like, some rock music. And I think that was a very successful and a good example of a festival that's whole concept is kind of catered around their audience and where they are in the world. And then as an example, I'll bring up one of the ones that I work on, which is When We Were Young. So When We Were Young is like a special case. Pop punk is forever, it's not dead. And so you can, our festivals tend to be in Vegas, which is like a destination spot. So you can really fly in from anywhere. And if the demand is high enough, people will come to your show. And, we kind of knew that, pop punk was kind of coming back. We saw it, booked a festival, and without going too into it, I'll share my screen. Hold on. I think this is a great example. Oop. So something I love about when we were young is I think we did a really, really good job of kind of, just concept creation, and really kind of understanding our target demographic for this. And so the first year, we made sure to use like every single band's band logo, as if, you're passing by like some locker at like some dingy locker room or something. And, when you were just like maybe in high school, if you were like a pop punk kid, you were just slapping all your like favorite band stickers like on your laptop and inside your locker everywhere. And that was kind of like the image that we wanted to kind of give off, which I think is super obvious and has been dissected on the internet a couple times. As soon as we dropped the first year's poster, it went super, super viral. I think people really resonated with the artwork and felt really like understood by, the concept creation, and that we weren't just some, festival just trying to play at the pop punk movement or emo movement by any means. Like we were like, we understand you. And then if you even look at our social media, like a lot of our graphics and our design concepts are all based around like being like mall goths and an emo kid, and we definitely not like ever poking fun, but trying to be like take it seriously, of course. And then this next year this year we kind of rebranded it a bit, where it takes that same concept of the stickers and kind of staying within the concept creation, but rebranding it a little bit, where it gives more, like this year it's more pop punk versus emo, and it has that kind of like a bit of a lighter attitude to it, which I believe pop punk tends to have. And yeah, it's similar, but obviously we changed it up. That's that. Stop sharing. But yeah, that's kind of where our mind was at with the When We Were Young concept creation. And then tying this back into the next gen program that I teach, when we're talking about concept creation, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a sneak peek into what we have. We have yet to announce it, but I urge all of you guys to go follow their social media afterwards to kind of see what we have in the works. It's called Next Gen Presents. But, taking all this knowledge that I have from, working festivals and stuff and working with the kids, I was like, what do you guys want to see? Like, where do we live? What kind of festival is going to, cater to your peers? And so, spoiler alert, the festival is called Home for the Summer. And Home for the Summer Festival is basically, they wanted to invoke a feeling of, you get out of school, and like usually with like, schools and programs that throw like yearly festivals, it's always like the spring fling or, welcome to the school year, like, at the beginning of the school year, they'll have some like welcome fest or whatever. But with this, they wanted to invoke that feeling of getting out of school. And, you might not be going on vacation and stuff, but LA, and especially South Central and LA is a great place to like have a staycation. And there's a lot of beauty in South Central community. And there's a lot of, with all the different types of vendors and just different types of people, just like in such a colorful, like, bigger community. So, they landed on the name Home for the Summer. I'm pretty sure we toyed through like 80 names, but that's what they felt resonated the most with, the concept creation that they were going for. Their poster, which is in the works, which, again, this is only a sneak peek for you guys, that's going to come out. They really wanted to highlight a lot of the different businesses that's around South Central. So they wanted to tie in imagery of like, I'm pretty sure like Randy's Donuts and like just, I'm not from here, so I don't know every area and everything, but like they they're including a lot of like the South Central like businesses into their artwork. They wanted like a lot of the different types of like, like the fruit cart guys in the artwork, and like kids skateboarding and playing basketball, and maybe just like lying out in the sun, and just and I think they did a really good job of creating this concept because they're the ones that are from this community. They know it more than anyone, so they know what people are going to want to see when it comes to like a community festival that they know will sell tickets. So yeah, that is concept creation. Then I'm going to go into picking artists. And this part is definitely the fun part, but it's also obviously the most critical part, right? Because the artists you pick they're going to be the ones to sell tickets for you and for the festival. So you have to make sure you pick the right artists. So for a festival like Lovers and Friends, I booked people like Lumity. And Lumity is really exciting because, I previously brought up like Nicki Minaj and her using the Lumity sample, like being able to book artists that, may have had like a moment in the 2000s, but are still super current, and strategically kind of picking those types of artists to place onto a lineup like ours is, what will kind of make or break the lineup. Like, someone staring at a festival lineup and being like, damn, they got this artist. Like, I haven't like, man, that's crazy. I wouldn't have even thought of that. Like, that's what's going to make, ticket buyers be like, this is an interesting and unique festival that I have to kind of, buy into. And then another example is, on When We Were Young is, hold on. Let me share screen. An artist that I'm excited about on When We Were Young are artists like, Gene Dawson, and people like Kenny Hoopla, which these are artists that may have not been popping, during the 2000s, kind of emo phase and stuff. But Gene Dawson is a newer artist who is doing really cool stuff with his music. He's blending hip hop and pop punk and emo and rock, and just kind of creating such a new genre-less sound that, he works on, major festivals that are, tend to be like multi-genre or whatever, but also works perfectly for, festivals like When We Were Young, and kind of pushes the fold a little bit too. So, he's an artist I'm really excited about. I've been listening to him for the last couple of years, and I'm really excited about him playing this show. I think it makes complete sense for him, and it was a great booking. Same with Kenny Hoopla. I also think his music is really cool and different, and, it's just getting more like, Black and brown folks into genres that historically never really had, people that, had our skin tones and stuff. So, and that's not the reason I booked them. Obviously, they are incredibly, incredibly talented, but to be able to be someone of color and also get to kind of push the fold for other artists is something that I really am excited to be doing. So there's that. And then kind of going into marketing a little bit. So this, I think, is really, really important, right? So I don't know about you guys, but when we dropped the first When We Were Young lineup, it went viral. And right now on this little screenshot, it only says 14 because this is the only screenshot I could find online. But the day that we announced When We Were Young, like, I'm pretty sure it was like number 2 or number 3 online. Not just on my socials because like I'm, friends with music people or whatever, but pretty much everyone was posting this on their stories. And I think that the best marketing strategy that is foolproof, that I think any promoter, anyone can agree with me about, is that it is critical for the artist to post. Like if the art, it's, we go through a lot of work behind the scenes trying to broker a deal. We have to, sometimes you get into a little argument with the agent or whatever, and like back and forth, and you're trying, you take, sometimes these, deals can like take months and stuff. And then for the artist to just not post, when we announce the festival, it hurts. Like that sucks for real, especially when you kind of put in all this work behind the scenes. It is critical for the artists, for artists on a lineup to post. It doesn't matter if you're on a festival, it doesn't matter if you're on a concert. And I think a lot of the times, certain artists are weird about it because they are an artist, which, is amazing, but they have a certain aesthetic to their feeds. And so they can feel kind of weird about, posting a lineup or posting a festival poster that might not necessarily go with the rest of their overall feed and aesthetic. So usually when we drop like, a festival poster, I'm literally calling like, managers and agents being like, please post the poster, please post the poster, please post it. Because that is what's going to get their fans and that audience that you're going for to come out to your show. And the reason I bring up when we were young about this, because right, this can apply to any festival, is I genuinely believe that the reason it went so viral is, first of all, because of just the festival in general and the artists and stuff, but it's genuinely because every single artist posted. Like we were looking on our tracker sheet, every single artist posted. And when you live on the internet on like some Tuesday or something, and all of a sudden like 50 of your like, or however many of your favorite bands are posting this insane iconic poster at the same time, like that's going to go viral. So I think, the best marketing strategy is to always urge the artists that you're booking to post at the same time to kind of get that crazy viral effect that can only be accomplished by a mass amount of people all posting at once. And obviously if an artist maybe has like an issue with it because they want their feed to look a certain way, there's different ways to kind of get around it. You can first ask them to just leave it up for 24 or 48 hours at the least. And then, once the on sale happens, they can take it down. You can ask them to kind of maybe post like a cute picture of themselves and then make it a carousel and then post the lineup afterwards. Or sometimes we'll make them their own just little like artist poster where it's just them but with their logo and stuff, and that usually gets them to post. And then if we've exhausted all options, then sometimes you just have to cut your losses. But yeah, that's kind of my very brief kind of overview as to what I think it takes to put on a successful music festival. Obviously it's way more complicated. There's a lot more behind the scenes that goes on, but I think for something like this is some good advice to kind of start off with. And again, I also highly encourage you guys to kind of look into next gen if you meet the requirements, and exploring programs like this for sure, because that's where you're going to learn like all of this stuff in depth. And if you don't meet the age requirements, like do what I did. I didn't have this next gen program, but I worked my butt off. I did everything for free for a very long time, and I just kept constantly putting myself out there. Like I've experienced a lot of no's, I've experienced a lot of sad, shitty situations to kind of get to this point, but I've never let it stop me. And it's truly paying off. And now I get to kind of tell other people how to, or hopefully help other people in return. So yeah, that's my presentation. I don't know if Candace is still on here.
Thank you, Haasini. Thank you so much for that overview. So now I think we should open it up for some questions questions. I'm sure there's some questions from the group here. We have about almost 50 people in the chat, so we'd love to hear some questions. What if you guys could raise your hand if you have any specific questions for Haasini, and we'll call on you. And or you can come on camera and ask her specifically if you want to get to know her better. That's the best approach. But definitely we want to hear your questions and your feedback and your thoughts on her presentation in real time so that we can keep this rolling. So I see a couple of hands up. Hastina, if you want to go ahead and start calling on people and asking them questions, and we'll go from there.
For sure. The first hand I see up is Danielle Buell.
Hi, Haasini. Thank you so much for being here. Like, honestly, your story is such an inspiration. So I have two questions. One is an emo kid, which everyone has been asking me, and I'm a music business student, and we all have speculations. One, the whole about everyone saying, I guess we're apparently going to be on When We Were Young festival. I was always wondering if they were faking it, that they didn't actually know that they were going to be on there, or if it was like a certain contract clause with Live Nation saying, hey, we're going to have a festival, but we're not going to let you know when and where it is.
I think anyone booking events would never want that to happen. When we send out our offers, I'm not going to go too into it. Like, it's presented to the artist. That's really all I have to say. Any bands that we book in our understanding understands that they are on the festival. I don't know what's happening maybe on their end, maybe their band management or whoever isn't communicating, but for a fact, anyone that we book on our lineup, we are assured that that artist understands that they are on the lineup.
That's what I thought too. And I was like telling him, I was like, maybe it's the team. Like, you can't really blame. There's no way that's not in the contract. And my second question was, I am super interested in the next gen, and I actually thought and wanted to apply, but I'm 30. So I didn't know like any loopholes or what I can do for this amazing opportunity.
Unfortunately, that it is. I feel like these classes and these type of educational programs should be offered to everyone of all ages, especially because it's not just booking and marketing that need jobs. There's jobs needed in production and operations and like the back end stuff that people might not know of. And due to that, I think there can be a lack of workforce, especially when festival season comes up. There's not that many people to work all these festivals sometimes. So unfortunately, no, this particular class is for 17 to 21-year-olds, but I don't think that should ever stop you from pursuing a career in live for sure.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Next up, Sherry Dang.
Hi. Sorry, I think it's like taking a minute for my camera to work, but thank you so much for chatting with us. And I attended When We Were Young, and it was absolutely fantastic. So thank you so much for playing a role in that and giving us such an incredible lineup. But my question is pretty specific for that. So I know it was like a 3-day festival, and on the last day, like one of the main headliners, Avril Lavigne, couldn't play the festival anymore, and I think Death Cab for Cutie and Under Oath were like added on instead. So how do you, if you play a role at all, as like a talent booker, fill that spot when an artist isn't able to kind of fulfill that contract or play that date that they're supposed to?
Well, not even going into specifics of this specific situation, but I think one of the risks when you're in live is like, you're basically throwing a huge party, and like you're trying to create a experience for like thousands of people and also multiple artists and yada, yada, yada. And, even if you're throwing like a birthday dinner, like there's going to be someone that doesn't show up, and I think the nature of festivals, it's like you do everything you can, obviously, to get the artists out there. You advance with them, you lock them in for a certain amount of money and stuff. But sometimes, just it is the way it is, and it's nothing that deep. It's just sometimes shit happens. And with that, you just have to kind of make sure, like, if an artist falls off, that you're going to book someone who is just as appealing to artists, and you have to try your best, especially if it's kind of like a last minute cancellation. Like, you just kind of have to like use your smarts and understanding of music, and also kind of just seeing, like, maybe asking like your emo friends and like friends who are more in that world, like, who do you want to see? Like, let us know, like, we don't, we just lost, or not lost, but like, this artist didn't work out, blah blah blah. You just kind of have to be smart about it and find someone who will be just as exciting, and just do your best. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Of course. Next up, Emily MacArthur.
Hi, can you hear me?
I don't think so. I can hear you now.
I'll take my headphones out. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah. I just want to say that I think, with the viral thing, I think you hit an exact target demographic of people that, the 2000s emo kids. They are responsible for a lot of the more well-known viral content that's been around on the internet for like 10 years. And, My Chemical Romance, they're known for having a really crazy fan base online, So I think anything involving them, people are going to go crazy and like buy tickets. I also wanted to know, I wanted to address some of the crazy rumors that were going around about that festival, and I wanted to know how Live Nation handled this on their end, because I'm sure you also had people calling the office and like emailing you guys and being like one of the things I heard going around was like, oh, there's so many bands I want to see, I can't see everyone. And I was like, yeah, they're on different stages because that's how festivals work, that's how it goes. But I was just wondering, because I never got to ask someone from Live Nation that, so I'm wondering if you guys were getting like a lot of hate and how you handled that, because sometimes when you I think Kevin Lyman from Warped Tour was like famously quoted as saying the best and worst day is the day you announce your lineup, and I still think that resonates for a lot of people. I was just wondering if you know you had people contacting you and being really rude and just making up crazy stuff that didn't make any sense, because I heard a lot of that stuff and just thought I'd ask you your opinion.
For sure. I have to say is even when I was booking my college shows, like, for Welcome Fest, we were getting the same type of hate in the comments, if you can misconstrue it as hate. So honestly, it wasn't that crazy for us to see or experience, but because I genuinely just think when you're in the business of throwing large parties, there's just going to be trolls. Like, that's just, you can't kind of get away from it. I think anything that has any popularity is going to kind of create some conversation, maybe some like controversy. All I know is like when I was in college and booking like, I don't know, like Big Baby Dram or whatever on like my college Welcome Fest, like all the CU buffs were in the comments being like, what is this? Blah, 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 like blah, blah, blah. Like, it's just unfortunately like a huge part of your job is to kind of like deal with the hate, but then you're at the show and you just kind of have to be like, all right, if you think these things, that's fine, but just come to the show and then make a decision. And then while I was at When We Were Young, like I literally like the best feeling was when I had this group of girls like walked by me and they were like, they looked at each other, they were like, this is like the best festival ever. And I was like, you know what? I might get 1,000 hate comments, but one one comment of them being like excited and happy was really all I needed. So there might have been like a lot of conversation online, but personally I wasn't really that bothered. And I never really got hit up by anyone. I think it's just something I've been kind of used to, and it's just a part of showbiz, baby. It just is. Next up, I'm sorry, it doesn't have your name on here, but I'm gonna say Live Out Live.
Hi, I'm Grace. I'm actually one of the Live Out Live interns. I'm kind of like helping moderate the chat a bit, but I had a question myself. So I know you were talking a lot about concept creation, and I am finishing up a degree in graphic design and interactive advertising, but experiential design is something that I really love to do. And one of the pieces that I'm working on for my portfolio before graduation is like I created a whole concept festival, and I'm working on like designing assets that would be in it. And like, even though it's a whole hypothetical festival, I still did all like picking of the artist, location, like that type of stuff. But I was just wondering how often you specifically work with design creatives on things like this, or where you see them kind of in that concept creation space.
Pretty often, honestly, like I'm usually the second or third person getting tapped for like opinions on how the poster is starting to look and stuff. But very, very often, I think something that's so, something that people kind of talk about is like the difference between like a talent buyer and a promoter. And, sometimes I feel like a talent buyer is just kind of focused on like one venue, or they're just booking the talent. You know what I mean? But when you're a promoter, it's kind of like you're kind of overseeing everything. Like you're overseeing like the art and the marketing, and it's like you're bringing this whole vision to life a little bit. So I'm still like learning. I'm still, I'm not gonna say I know everything. I'm still for sure learning. And my boss is someone I look up to very, very, very much. But I think just being a good promoter, you're thinking about all of this at the same time from the start to finish. And you have the framework in your head and the layout in your head so that you can kind of produce and create kind of like the best concept possible. I think the best promoters are people who have a good understanding of graphic design and design elements as well, and have a good understanding of how to market to their target demographic. Maybe not just, oh, I just have good taste and I'm just going to book these bands. Like you have to kind of embody it all.
Awesome, thank you.
It's no problem. Oliver?
Hi, good morning. Thank you for being here. It's so wonderful to find you and this information. I run a nonprofit organization for as a mariachi academy, and we do a mariachi festival every year. With COVID, it kind of went away, but I'm trying to get it back up and running. And I realized I don't meet the age requirements. I'm 50 years old, but what I really want to do is get our young people involved, like our the kids that are taking the classes to actually get involved and be the next generation of to carry on our music tradition. And I'm sorry I came in a little bit late. I didn't catch where I can find the
Yeah, yeah,
class. How do I sign up?
yeah.
Or
No. If you just go on Instagram and look up Next Gen Presents, that, they don't have much information about the next cohort yet, but it's a great place to stay tuned for, what we're about to drop. And also just kind of stay tuned for future opportunities, and they'll have the sign up for the next cohort and all of that on there.
could you possibly just drop that in the chat?
Yeah, I think somebody just did.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Of course, no problem. Gabriella?
Yes, hi. Thank you so much. Like, I'm so grateful to have found this as well. And one of my questions, I know you talked about like how you booked artists, but I was also wondering if there are any like analytics that you also see to see when you're booking an artist or
Oh, of course. I think I think it's funny. I think people look too much at the analytics and that's where I'm like trying to deviate from. But I think every promoter, without a doubt in the world, is looking at analytics first. They're looking at your Spotify streams, they're looking at your Spotify followers, they're looking at your Instagram followers, they're looking at, what shows did they play in the past? Did they sell out those venues? Did they sell out those venues in these particular markets? They are, do they have a new album coming up? like stuff like that. Like at the first thing people are looking at is analytics and all of that. I personally think it's, some people rely too heavily on like the analytics, and that's why a lot of the, I don't know, festivals, in my opinion, aren't like selling super crazy, because it's just kind of about analytics. And so you kind of have to bring in that curational mind as well, and like that love of music to, I think, really combine it and make like a crazy festival lineup.
I have a
Yeah.
follow-up question if it's
Yeah,
okay.
go for it.
How do you stay on top of like trends personally and like seeing like, okay, maybe this artist doesn't meet like the analytical whatever they need, right? But I see potential in them. How do you like find these new artists?
I've done it. Okay, so there's this artist I've been working with named Tisa Korean, and he's had an interesting career where he like went viral like a couple years ago, and then I think he had like a shitty deal or something like that, and then things kind of like, became stagnant for him. And then I just had a friend show me his music right before Smokers Club Festival. And I was just like, wait, I just like his music. Like there was no indication of him like about to blow up or like be next anything. I was just like, this music is so dope. It's so interesting. And I did, my favorite way is kind of seeing like the people that I like respect and kind of look up to musically. And sometimes those people only have like 1,000 followers. Like it's not about the followers or them being a tastemaker. It's just people I know that are just like tapped into good music. And like I see them kind of like, listening and like liking their shit and stuff. And so I booked him on the festival. And like right when I booked him, he like came out with this album, and people were like like in the underground rap scene, like people were really into it. And I was like, oh my God, okay, good timing. And then ever since, he's just been slowly like getting bigger and bigger. And then now I just like put together this little tour for him, and I booked like a ton of great like support acts from each market, and I made it kind of look like a festival poster in its own way, but it's a tour poster. And he just dropped his new album, and it's like blowing up. It's becoming very viral. And like I really just, there was like no real indication except that there were just some artists and people that I saw like that were into his music. But at the end of the day, it was genuinely just me being like, this is really special and different, and I have to help foster it. And it might not be like this big like rap caviar artist, but like that's not my vibe anyways. So for me, more interested in like, unique artists. I don't care how big they are or how small they are, just someone who's kind of doing their own thing. And those people kind of tend to, if they're doing it right, like tend to kind of blow up naturally. Yeah. Anyone else have any questions?
I actually had one.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, how was that transition moving from Boulder to LA? And did you feel like that like opened up a lot of opportunities in the music industry? Because like I'm based in New Jersey, and I feel like me and a lot of my friends that are interested in the music industry, we always like wonder, like we're like, everything is available in LA. Like all the job opportunities we see for Live Nation is in LA, but we never like know, is it going to be worth it, or like how is that transition? And we never really meet people that make that transition. So I wanted to ask about that.
Girl, it was crazy. I was truly like just a small town girl living in a lonely world. Like I was like unironically listening to that when I first moved here. It's definitely a transition. I don't think I'm this like my nickname is Haas, and I like define like periods of my life or different personality traits by like oh chill Haas, oh promoter Haas, and like Colorado Haas was like completely different. But I think everyone's story is super unique. I do think, unfortunately, like if you really want to be in the like the of like the industry and stuff, like you got to be in LA or New York for sure, but not everyone wants to do that. And there's a lot of people who are happy with just like being in their music scene and just being like completely like enthralled in it, like the Colorado scene. There's a ton of people who are like, I don't want to move anywhere except I don't want to live anywhere except Colorado because this place has all the music that I love. And so the industry giants in like the jam band and EDM world might be in Colorado, but they're not going to be in LA. So you're going to stay in Colorado. I don't know what the scene in New Jersey is like, but if you're trying to be in like the thick of it, and listen, I didn't come from like, I'm not a kid of nepotism. Like I had to like fully like finance myself to come out here. I was on scholarships, like I have student debt, like all of that. But I'm pretty sure I ripped through like all my savings as soon as I got to LA because it's super expensive to make the transition. And I just had to suck it up. And I think for me and for certain people, if you want to be in this kind of world and scene, like move to LA and moving to LA, I knew that I was going to be transformed. I kept calling it my LA transformation. And like my like first year that I was at my job, I was like, just wait, I'm going through my LA transformation. And they were like, what? And I'm like, no, you won't see. And now like 3 years later, my friends that I knew when I first moved to LA are like, oh my God, you're so different. I was like, I told you I was going to go through my LA transformation. So allow it to transform you because you might end up, now my music taste is a little bit different. And so many of my friends are artists and creative people. And like, and I thought moving from LA that I was going to be like super industry and be like, yeah, like all my friends are going to be like A&Rs and like industry people. Now I'm like a very small, it's like I changed. A small percentage is industry people actually. And most of my friends are now artists, musicians, creatives. Like those are the types of people I get along with more. And so, yeah, you might be in New Jersey right now and you might think of yourself as this version of yourself. And you should certainly enjoy this version of yourself, but also be open to kind of moving to a new place and letting it transform you. And it might be a lot of shitty experiences too. Like I had a lot of horrendous experiences when I moved to LA. But if I hadn't had those experiences, I don't think I'd be as like on top of it as I am now.
Thank you so much for that. That's very helpful.
Of course. Nikita?
And this is going to be the last question, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap things up.
Hi, yeah. Thanks for sharing your story and all these answers to these questions. I just wanted to ask, I'm a college student. You kind of mentioned how you got involved while you were on campus. And since being in college, I've kind of worked at a venue and I do like little VIP gigs. And I was wondering, are there other things that you can like that come to mind, maybe that are more gig based or accessible to the people in this call that kind of would grant you? Oh, I'm in Philly.
Oh, Philly's a great hub for music. I mean, if not better than Colorado, in ways. Girl, I think you're set. You just keep doing the gigs, ask people to get coffee. I like people love to talk about themselves, like they do. That's like one thing I really learned in college was like I would put together panels. Like I did this thing called the Colorado Music Industry Conference, and I got people I like found people who are like alums and like graduated from like the school that I was at that are working in music, and I found those people and put together panels. I would get again coffee with whoever and like ask them to talk about themselves. And when people that are older than you and have been in the industry like feel special and like you really like look up to them, they'll try to find like little opportunities for you. Like I was like I went to like Okeechobee. My first festival I ever went to was one that I worked, and I had artist passes just because I was like, I like had worked with the guy who was like putting it together for like a couple years and stuff. And I was so like consistent about like showing up to gigs and showing up to little things that he didn't even know me that well, but he was like, you've never been to a festival? And I was like, no. And he was like, all right, you're coming, artist passes, you're shadowing us. Like, that's it. Like, it was just, I always got these weird little like opportunities because I like was so consistent and invested in the people that I was kind of around.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks.
Okay, I think that's it.
Good. Thank you so much, Haasini. This has been really great. I hope that everyone enjoyed yourselves. And can you just tell us ways that they can keep in contact with you via LinkedIn or whatever your preference is?
Yeah, for sure. You can go ahead and, follow me on LinkedIn for sure. I don't think I have my profile on here, but I can send it real quick. Hold on. Oops. You can just follow me on LinkedIn. You can also, I don't, if you want to follow me on Instagram, you can, but that's like, I have a lot of my like personal stuff on there too. So I don't know if you really want to see that. Let me find my LinkedIn. And yeah, here, I found it. Let me stick it in. Yeah, whatever your preference is, but yeah, feel free to like shoot me messages if it makes sense. And yeah, like if you're anyone like me, you can definitely make it in the music industry. You just have to work your ass off.
That's right. Really appreciate you today. Thank you so much for sharing insight and just so much valuable information that I know that everyone here appreciated. I know I personally appreciate it. And we look forward to having you back again soon. And we look forward to having this session again soon. In 2 weeks, we're going to have a production 101 session featuring another speaker. So I hope that you guys will come back and join us then. And I hope you guys have a good rest of the week. Thank you.